If I am to become a cock, an overweight and feathered cock, then I am going to be the biggest one on Azeroth. Unlike in my original mission though, I am starting at a severe point of disadvantage. I had spent the last few weeks grinding to become the tallest tree, so now I'm going to need to gear up all over again. I did have some pieces of balance gear, but with the majority of my gear still being plus healing, I was a wee little cocklet doing starfires for 1600 damage. I'm literally bringing less than 1000 extra spell damage into the raid, not pumper material. Fuck this, enough whining. Today's the day that I kill Illidan Stormrage and finally clear a current content raid tier. I conquered 8 out of the 14 bosses in the last video, and today I've come to finish the fucking job. Before we get to that though, I've got some things I need to get off my chest. Remember in the first episode when I bought up all this perfume and cologne bottles during the Valentine's Day event? I figured I would wait for the supply to dwindle before I tried to sell them. I decided to get creative, and a few days in advance I started planning an event. I went on MS Paint and made an advertisement. "Come to the fragrance convention," I said. "Are you tired of getting sniffed? Can't seem to land that date? Is the Outland stench giving you weird looks in the trade district? Come to the park on Sunday to try some exclusive new fragrances. If you like them, you can take them home for below market price. Yay!" It pains me to see most Azerothians plagued by poor hygiene on such a regular basis. I want to see an Azeroth where everyone smells good. I posted the advertisement on the r/Grobulus subreddit where I got 42 upvotes. Wow, 42 upvotes? I bet this shit is gonna be popping off. I can probably get these suckers gone for 50 gold a pop. I get there, and at first the park is empty. After a few minutes, a level 24 rogue named Rotmore comes by. "Are you here for the convention?" I ask him. He nods in response. I asked Rotmore if he'd like to try a free sample, as is customary in my sales pitch. I knew he didn't have much gold, but this is genuinely one of the only things I've done in WoW for pure fun rather than an end goal. He says yes please, and embarrassingly I had to run to the mailbox and collect them because for some fucking reason I did not have ready the products I had advertised at the time that I'd advertised them. How ridiculous. So stupid it was almost cowardly. I actually didn't have enough bag space to carry all the products, so I had to start deleting water and a stack of wildthorn roots just to carry the cologne. Luckily, I haven't made too much of an ass of myself thus far. I asked him which kind were you thinking. I got cologne and perfume. Now I don't know about you, but if you had to guess by this aged male human's appearance and presumably where he stands within the general audience that I'm trying to sell to, you would probably guess that he wants the cologne. And you'd be right to say that. "I'd like to try the cologne," he says. Letting him know that I'm simultaneously welcoming him with open arms and I'm also not letting my guard down, I tell him for sure, just make sure to pass back the sample bottle after spraying it. He sprays the cologne. "How is it?" I ask him, hoping to make a sale. Rotmore sniffs the air. The level 62 druid who has been hanging out in the Moonwell despite saying nothing throughout the interaction sniffs Rotmore. "Feeling more attractive? More confident?" I inquire. "That smells great," he says. I remind him it's some high quality cologne. Yes! I fucking done it. I did it! I made a sale. He asks how much for a bottle and I tell him it's whatever you think it's worth. He offers me 10 gold and considering it was a 1 silver investment, that's a line that I'm more than happy to meet him at. I give him the sample bottle as well to show him my appreciation. I thank him for his business and he says in return, "No, thank you, Axe Body Spray. With this I might soon be able to get a girl." I gave him a free perfume for the girl. God, I'm fucking smooth. After Rotmore left, I grew frustrated. I tried talking to the warlock that passed by, but she rode off. I went to go. A few people are hanging out by the Moonwell. "So sorry for the tardiness," I said. I had to resupply. I asked the group if they were looking to try some free samples, and they formed a line. The drunken dwarf asks, "Resupply what, lass?" "Alright guys, so I have cologne and I have perfume. Which would you like to sample?" Swippa the warlock says, "I am the great demon master Blorgorg and I need to resupply my wares." "I can accommodate all of you, thankfully," I reassured them. I tell Frostwolf I'm going to give him a sample of the cologne, and when I do, he trades me dynamite in return. Well, we got a badass over here. I ask him what he thinks of it. "Wow, it's pungent," he says. The warlock is growing impatient. "Puff puff pass," she says. I inform the dwarf of its Thalassian origins. He rides away on his horse for a second, but I remind him that's the sample bottle. She comes back and sprays it. "Smells like cat piss," she says. What an awful lie used to disparage me and my business. I can't let her walk away with the idea that my products are this bad. "You might like the perfume better," I say nervously. She reassures me that she loves the smell of cat piss. Aye, like oatmeal shoved inside of a rat's stomach. A huge relief. I gave Tavenar a free sample of cologne. "Ah, that's a good smell," the paladin reassured me. DV Leatherman, the bank alt, shows up, late to the party. "I heard there was a fragrance festival." And Olvithil the Hunter shows up and says, I heard there was alcohol in exchange for my nose. I tell DB Cooper that I can sample him some cologne, but before he even fucking tries it, he can smell the cologne on the other attendees. Wow, that's wonderful, he says. This event is turning out to be less of an ordeal and more like actual fun for a poor little fragrance salesman who happens to be named Axe Body Spray. I asked my humble attendees, who are currently still with me, if they'd like to purchase some of my products. The bank alt asks, how much? And I once again declare that these products' prices to be whatever you think they are worth. The bank alt trades me 1 gold for a cologne. Tavenar, like the bum he is, tries to take the cologne while giving me nothing in return. I cancel the trade and reopen it to see if he'd do better. The cheapskate traded me 10 silver. Boosted Andes. Disgusting. Frostwolf spends like 30 real-life seconds trying to give me blue balls through the trade window. I decide to stop holding up the line and ask Yulvithil if she wants to try a sample. She tries the cologne, and with a very good Primal Hunter nose, she detects the hints of lavender, oak, and deepwood moss inside the spray. Simply delightful, she says, which is good news. Which of course precedes bad news. While the hunter was out trying her sample, I asked Frostwolf if he'd like to make a purchase, and things get weird. Sweat, he says. Being new to the guild, and also new to the server, but also loyal to the guild, I wasn't really sure what to say, so I simply said nothing. He then said, I'll be off, and rode off on his bighorn sheep. On the bright side, I opened the trade window on Yulvithil, and she said, I'll take 3. This is fucking dope. This e-girl knows what's up. She gives me 3 gold for the bottles on a level 23 budget. I'd say that's pretty generous. Another successful transaction for yours truly. It's Monday, March 7th at 5:30 p.m. and I'm playing with my guild starting the first wave of Mount Hyjal. But this time, I'm on a different playstyle, one that can seem counterintuitive. Angry Toaster, who is playing on his shaman, whispers me, Why are you using Wrath? I'm not supposed to? I asked him. He says, Nope, use Starfire. To me, this seemed kinda fucked up. Why use Starfire when it takes 90 seconds to cast and I can get 3 Wraths off in the time that it takes to cast a Starfire? Then it dawns on me that the reason I was running out of mana so often in Black Temple was because I was casting 3 times as many spells as I needed to. Angry also told me not to worry about casting Insect Swarm unless I'm moving. This kinda makes sense to me because every GCD I use casting dots is a second that I'm not using spending casting Starfire, which is a waste of time. The rest of the raid went fine by Hyjal standards. We wiped a few times on Archimond, and I somehow forgot to record the part where we killed him. This also means I forgot to record the part where I got the tier 6 helmet token, which will be a huge upgrade. I'm feeling pretty good so far as we head into my first fight against Illidan Stormrage. My first piece of actual tier 6. It feels pretty fucking good, all things considered. We make our way back to the temple summit, where Illidan stands before us. I know I went over this fight in the last episode, but let me just give you another rundown of what this fight is like. In the first phase, it's essentially a tank and spank, but he spawns parasites that will run towards the raid, and if you don't kill them quickly, they explode, and you know, it's kind of bad for the raid. You don't want shit exploding in raid, generally speaking. Once you get him to around 2/3 health, he flies up into the air and spawns the 2 gigantic, colossal, seriously, why are they so fucking big, Flames of Azzinoth. These guys drop a big blue flame that you really don't want to get caught in, and you want to stay stacked up with your group so you don't take a ton of damage. Once he's down, it's back to the parasites and tank and spank, where you DPS him down until Maiev shows up and traps everyone in a bubble. You get let out of the bubble and you finally defeat him. Alright, first try of the night, let's get it. I'll be honest, I'm not really sure what went wrong here. All I know is we made it to the flames, the tanks died suddenly, and not only did we wipe, we super wiped in like 10 measly seconds. Second try of the night, and Wurzy gets a blue beam spawned right on her and she dies instantaneously. Third try, and this time, believe it or not, we died again on the flame phase. This time it was because Oggs was on the wrong side of the flame and the raid was warning him to back up, but due to the fog of war he ended up backing into the flame instead of away from it. Sad news, we immediately fucking wiped. Fourth try of the night, and we didn't even make it past the first phase because the blue beam that I forgot up until now that Illidan even spawned landed on Merilot and he died. Illidan started cheering up the raid like the pathetic Fox News viewing sheep we are. 5th time's the charm, as they say. We got through phase 1 flawlessly and got through phase 2 without a single death. Maiev puts us in a bubble, and while we are in said bubble, the raid is plotting on what to do. If you have threat, you need to run away, because Illidan will put those glaives right in the no-no zone. Me and my drink was prayed this time. I battle-rezzed him and we got back to work. Threat was still looking dicey, and Merilot died to Illidan while he was at 0% health. It didn't matter though, the raid comms were hype. As my boy Oggs would say, we out here. We out here as fuck, boys. I just completed the current content raid tier, a feat that had eluded me from the day Classic WoW released in August 2019. On March 7th, 2022, I had finally championed the endgame, and while I didn't get anything useful off Illidan, I did get a tier 6 piece off Arc, and I think that's pretty fucking hype. I headed back to Mount Hyjal to turn in the token for the Thunderheart Headguard, which is my T6 Druid helm. I acquired said piece and felt pretty primal. Later that night, I put on a Potent Pyrestone, adding 5 spell crit rating and 6 spell damage. Even with this addition, I was only boasting about 913 spell damage. It was a bit further into the evening when I did something truly irredeemable. I got someone roped into a gambling addiction. I engaged my guild chat. Anyone want a death roll 50 gold for shits and giggles? Muff Snorkler, my good friend, and the superior Resto Druid responded in all caps, "Sure." I knew it was time. I invite Muff to a group, and he quickly accepts the invite. He tells me he will come to me in Stormwind. He sees me in the Mage District and says, "Let's run to the graveyard." I was a bit confused, but okay, it's whatever. I assumed he just meant he wanted to go there because it was a quiet place to roll off at. "So we don't gotta run so far back," he says. "What? Run from where?"
What?
Oh wait, I have a B-res up. It then clicks with me, he doesn't know what death rolling is. I am now faced with the choice of either cancelling the plans, saving this man from a soul-eating pastime, or enlightening him on what the nature of this beautiful game is. I asked him, "Wait, do you know what death rolling is?" "No, lol," he responds. I warned him that I was about to potentially change his life. I explained that we are both betting for 50 gold, we do a roll to determine who goes first, and that because the bet is 50, we will roll out of 500. Whoever hits first loses. So we try to roll for a higher number, and then we die? I'm down. Okay, it was at this point that I've come to realize that the term death rolling might be misleading to unfamiliar players. Muff wins the roll for who goes first. I tell him to roll 1 out of 500. He lands on 85, and then I roll out of 85 and land on 31. Homeboy asks me if he won, and I tell him no. Roll out of 31, and we roll until one of us hits 1. He rolls out of 31 and lands on a 7. I land on a 4. He asks again, now what? I tell him to roll out of 4, and he lands on a 4. I land on a 1 and give the man his winnings. Now, a man who knows what he's doing will stop while he's ahead. I am not that guy, and neither is he. I did give it my best effort to avoid peer pressure though. Having lost hundreds of gold due to death rolling in Classic, I was eager not to make the same mistake again. "Come on," he beckons me. I tell him I really gotta call it. I try explaining the math, and he pulls out the ultimate checkmate. Up to you. Sometimes you just gotta roll the dice, baby. If I haven't mentioned it yet, I would like to inform you that Muff is in fact Sweat's most smoothest affiliate. I tell him I'll roll for double or nothing and we get it started. I win the roll for first, landing on a nice 69. I roll 1 out of 500 and land on an 86. Muff, still being guided through this process, rolls out of 86 and lands on a 41. I roll that and land on a 48, and Muff explains that he's high and he's not sure what to do. Now maybe this is bad for me to reveal this, but in roughly none of the footage I have shown or will show on this channel was done while I was sober, and none of these videos were created without the help of the green stuff either, so I call bullshit, but that's besides the point. I might be giving him too much of a hard time though. It's not like I was a good healer when I played high. He rolls out a 38 and lands on a 10. Scary. Menacing even. He's still asking what to do, but rolls on a 5 and lands on a 5. I land on a 4 and I'm starting to think he's trolling me. I explain it to him again. He lands on a 2, and while I use the roll on 2 as an example, I land on 1 and painstakingly give him his gold. I think this might have driven the point home for him though. I feel no need to further detail how the rest of the rolls went, because we kept death rolling for the next 15 minutes once he got the pattern. You should just know that I was down 250 gold for the night and ended up having to go to my bank alt just to give him the rest of the gold that I owed him since I blew through all my pocket money on my main. I wasn't mad though. I introduced him to a dangerous habit and I was getting my bad karma in return. You might have noticed, I haven't shown you much of what I've done in the outside world since becoming balanced with nature. The thing is, Pungent is an awesome class for open world farming, and it's an awesome class for both PvE and PvP content. When it comes to ganking, you can be literally unstoppable to certain classes. I wasn't anywhere near this point though. My spell damage was still in the 900s, and without Resil to back it up, I wasn't really gonna do much. I tried going to the throne to kill Jaden to farm Primal Fires. I did that pretty efficiently, but after a few minutes of farming, I found the mage who griefed my Kazakh run the other night and I wanted revenge, but I wiped on a trash player. Balanced spec can be a beautiful thing, and that takes time and practice. If I want to become the avian hunter that I must be, it will require my dedication. Boomkins when full geared are the ultimate show of force. I will become that show of force. I will become the Doom Chicken. The biggest cock on Azeroth. You thought me killing Illidan was the capstone of the series? No. Fuck that. I'm here to show you my ascendance. My true fucking rise to glory. It won't be overnight, and it won't be next week. So stay tuned for more on the Road to Tier 6 by Axe's Chronicles.